Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Nightwater podcast. It has been a while. Today on the show, I'm going to taste and react to Pocari Sweat, the famed Japanese sports drink, live in the studio being my home office. This is the Nightwater podcast, the official audio companion to the Nightwater newsletter. Imagine this. You wake up in the middle of the night. You're parched. You stumble out of bed and towards the kitchen, seeking the cold touch of fresh water on your lips, and you pour yourself a glass and guzzle it down. Nothing has ever tasted so good. Your mind and your body are completely refreshed, and you are ready to return to bed for a blissful, dreamless sleep. That is what it is like to read Nightwater. It is a late-night niche culture newsletter that comes out most Tuesdays at 11 p.m. Eastern. I cover everything from vegan junk food to the Pokemon cards at McDonald's to the fake hospital where Cabbage Patch Kids are born to old-time radio stations to Japanese sports drinks. Who am I? My name is Adam Cecil. I write Nightwater, and I am your humble host today. And you can find out more about me and the newsletter at nightwater.email. That is a URL, and just go to that URL and click on FAQs in the menu. Enough preamble. Let's move on to Pocari Sweat.
Did you know that even while sitting, you may be losing fluids that are essential to the body? Pocari Sweat helps replenish these important bodily fluids. Drink Pocari Sweat, easily absorbed to quickly rehydrate your body. Water is not enough. Pocari Sweat.
Long-time Nightwater readers know that I love a sports drink here in the UK called Lucozade. I've written 2 articles ranking my favorite Lucozade flavors at this point. I might even be able to wrangle a third if there's enough popular demand. Anybody? Pocari Sweat is a little bit different though. So there's only one flavor to try, and if you didn't know any better, you'd think you were looking at water. In fact, the reason I wanted to try Pocari Sweat in the first place is a tweet. This is from Marko Jukic. He's got a ton of followers, actually. He's some kind of VC investor focused on space travel, I think, which is probably why Elon promoted him into my feed. He tweeted in August, quote, "I don't know how they do it, but you can add inventing the perfect sports drink to the list of Japan's accomplishments. Uncanny. Tastes like how water tastes in a dream." And then he's attached a picture of Pocari Sweat. Naturally, my interest was piqued. Sports drink, Japan, dream water. How could I not give it a try?
Life is a game of moments, and every one of them matters. Squeeze every drop out of life. Put it back with Pocari Sweat.
Let's go back in time a little bit to the origins of Pocari Sweat. A lot of this information comes from some great reporting from Amiko Jizuka at CNN and Julian Ryle at South China Morning Post. I will link both of their articles in the show notes if you want to read them. Okay, throw your mind back. The year is sometime in the 1970s. You are a Japanese pharmaceutical researcher named Rokuro Harima, and you're on a business trip to Mexico. You get the worst diarrhea of your life. I mean, this is next level. I'm going to die on the Oregon Trail levels of diarrhea. And this is in the official record, mind you. I'm not exaggerating. Maybe I might be exaggerating a little bit. But you go to the hospital and the doctor says, okay, you'll be fine. Just drink these sodas and you'll feel better. You just need to rehydrate. So you're sitting there drinking your fizzy sodas and you see a doctor pop open a pouch of IV fluid and drink straight from the bag to rehydrate after a long surgery. What are you thinking there in that scenario? Well, if you're Harima, you're thinking, wow, I've got a great idea for a drink. So Harima works for Otsuka Pharmaceutical, which makes IV fluid in Japan. And they also make a health drink, a vitamin C drink called Aronamin C that Harima actually worked on. He helped refine the flavor. And this is an absolute perfect storm of events. Right person at the right time to create not only Pocari Sweat, but the entire sports drink market in Japan. See, Japan does not have Gatorade at the time. It does not have Lucozade. Outside of alcohol, there was soda, there was juice, And that was pretty much it. There was a wide open space for tasty IV fluid. So what's actually in Pocari Sweat? It's mostly water, some of the same elements that we lose when we sweat. So that's stuff like sodium ion, potassium ion, calcium ion, magnesium ion. There's a reason that it says ion supply drink on the bottles. You add some sugar and some citrus flavoring, and you've got yourself a batch of Pocari Sweat. Fun fact, the name Pocari Sweat does not mean anything. Post-World War II, European languages were seen as quite posh. English slogans, in particular, were very trendy. Pocari was made up to sound vaguely European, and sweat is sweat. The more you know. I know what you're thinking. What does Pocari Sweat taste like? We need to know. I love that energy. Keep it up. And I will taste Pocari Sweat live on this pre-recorded podcast right after this break. If you enjoy Night Water, the newsletter, not just the concept of drinking water at night, consider becoming a paid subscriber. Not only will your paid subscription help me pay the bills around here, like hosting the blog and the podcast and buying Pocari Sweat, you will also get exclusive Day Soda newsletters. So recently on Day Soda, I've been doing a whole series where I go deep on modding my first iPod and everything that entails. And you can get access to that and the full Day Soda archive when you sign up. If you think, yeah, I get about one fancy coffee's worth of enjoyment out of Night Water every month, consider supporting. You can just head over to nightwater.email, hit subscribe in the top right corner, or head to the show notes for a direct link. And if you can't do a paid subscription right now, but you want to support Night Water, please tell your friends to sign up. Share the posts on social media, in group chats, in your company's Slack or Microsoft Teams chat. It really helps. All right, let's get back to Pocari Sweat. There are a ton of great Pocari Sweat TV commercials on YouTube from its home country, Japan, and other markets they operate in, like Korea, Nigeria, and even the US. Where Pocari Sweat has been attempting to break into the sports drink market. I think my favorites are these old Cindy Crawford commercials. They're giving a kind of high fantasy Xena warrior princess come heavy metal vibe, if you remember the giant bird thing from Heavy Metal. In one of them, she's practicing her sword craft when a mutant rabbit gives her a can of Pocari Sweat. And when a mutant rabbit gives you a can of Pocari Sweat, you're gonna argue with the mutant rabbit? No.
負けない水イオンサプライポカリスエット
While I was on YouTube looking for Pocari Sweat commercials, I came across this guy. His username is Jacob fucking Jones.
Which, of course, I am quite excited to do. I haven't had too many cigarettes today, so I certainly am looking forward to enjoying one of my Winston Classic Red cigarettes from Mexico, but I am also quite excited to drink my Pocari Sweat Japanese sports drink in today's video as well. I went to Japan a couple months ago.
The title of this video is Smoking Cigarettes and Drinking a Japanese Sports Drink at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. And that's exactly what you get. It's about 20 minutes of our man Jacob shooting the shit, telling us about his trip to Japan, where he found Pocari Sweat in Mexico, where he lives, recounting its Mexican origin story, including the diarrhea, and then enjoying his cigarettes and Pocari Sweat.
Pocari Sweat definitely is not the first drink that comes to mind, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it actually does pair. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get one of my Winston Classic Red cigarettes all out of the pack, and let's go and get it all lit up, so then I can go ahead and drink some Pocari Sweat while smoking a cigarette, as I promised in the title, and find out whether Pocari Sweat actually pairs well with a cigarette or not. I'm not expecting it to be the best pairing ever, I will admit, but I'm looking forward to finding out nonetheless. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get this cigarette right here all lit up. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying?
I'm not a big cigarette or tobacco guy in general, but I've got to say, this is great, great stuff. And this is what YouTube should be for, not that satanic Mr. Beast stuff. And really, this is what podcasting should be too. Fewer far-right influencers and more people smoking cigarettes and drinking a Japanese sports drink in the afternoon. And Nightwater is here to change the podcasting industry bit by bit. So let's get into it. I thought it would be easy to find Pocari Sweat near me. I live near maybe 4 or 5 various Asian supermarkets covering a lot of the countries that Pocari Sweat is available in, but none of them had Pocari Sweat when I went looking. Absolutely devastating. So I special ordered a few bottles from a UK importer, and of course, the second I do that, I went and found Pocari Sweat in 2 Asian supermarkets in the center of London, one of which is across the street from my favorite movie theater here, the Prince Charles Cinema. I couldn't believe it. In any case, I now know where to go to get Pocari Sweat. I hope someday that Otsuka brings Pocari Sweat to the UK themselves. If you're in the US, you can go to trypocari.com. There is a map with retailers who carry it. The Japanese grocery store I used to go to in Brooklyn has it. Very convenient if I'd found out about Pocari Sweat a couple of years ago. All right, I've made you wait long enough. It's time for me to take a sip of Pocari Sweat.
지금 살아있는 수분이 우리와 함께 달리고 있어. 포카리 스웨트로 나는 지금 라이브. 내 몸에 가까운 물 포카리 스웨트.
I've got my bottle of Pocari Sweat right here. This particular bottle is from Korea. Let's get a nice record the opening. I thought that would make a more satisfying sound, if I'm being honest. That would be a nice, like, psst, you know. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's really nice. Especially after recording each section of this podcast multiple times, doing different takes. That is really refreshing on my vocal cords. It's a very subtle taste, very subtle citrusy taste, not overpowering at all. Otherwise, it just tastes like a really nice, fresh water. Yeah, it's not like a Lucozade or a Gatorade at all. Like it doesn't. It really is feels like water with like an additive. Versus a completely different drink, which I think is to its success. You know, I don't always want, you know, something that tastes super fake. I want like water, but in a dream. I don't know if I feel like it's like the way that water tastes to me in a dream. I think water in a dream to me does not have any citrus flavor, at least in my dreams, but it does taste really good. Yeah, that's great. It's very refreshing. It's an extremely, extremely refreshing drink. To say on the bottle it says Pocari Sweat is a drink which supplies water and electrolytes lost through perspiration. Pocari Sweat is quickly absorbed into the body tissues due to its fine osmolality. And contains electrolytes for replenishing body fluids. Pocari Sweat is thus highly recommended as a beverage for such activities as sports, physical labor, after a hot bath, and even as an eye-opener in the morning. That would be really good, actually. It's like a nice morning drink. If you're not into coffee or you're trying to get off coffee, maybe Pocari Sweat is the way to go. Yeah, I think after a nice, you know, if you're out there doing your adult sports, can't go wrong with Pocari Sweat. Definitely feel like it's going to perk you up. I think the real question is, should you replace your regular night water, you know, your night water, plain night water, with Pocari Sweat? And it is extremely refreshing, but I do wonder if maybe it's a bit too refreshing, you know? Like if it has a bit too much, even the subtle citrus flavor might be too much. It might like perk you up a bit too much versus plain Jane night water. But I don't know, you could try it. You could try it at home. You can also, in addition to Pocari Sweat in a bottle or a can, you can get Pocari Sweat powder. So you can make your own Pocari Sweat at home to various concentrations. You could dilute it if you were afraid of it being a little too much, which I am. But yeah, I'd say, you know, it's worth experimenting. But I wouldn't be rushing to make it a nighttime drink. Definitely more of a morning and after activity kind of drink. Oh, if only I had a nice cigarette to enjoy it with. Thanks for listening to Night Water today as I tasted Pocari Sweat. Recording podcasts and drinking a Japanese sports drink at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday evening. Nothing better than that. My name is Adam Cecil. You can find me at Fake Adam Cecil on Twitter and Blue Sky. I write Nightwater, a niche culture newsletter at nightwater.email. Subscribe for free today or become a paying Day Soda subscriber to help support more purchases of Japanese sports drinks. You can find Nightwater on social media as well. On Blue Sky, it is nightwater.email, and on Instagram, it's at nightwatermemes. Links to both of those and various Mastodon options in the show notes. I'll see you next time. Until then.
Yes, sir. You know what I'm saying?